Right. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening to all our delegates registered for this webinar today. It's my pleasure to host the session with the two external expert speakers that we have on the topic of servitization in the process equipment industry, the why, the what, and the how. My name is Iain McKechnie. I'm the Director of Strategic Partnerships at the Advanced Services Group, and I'll have the pleasure of navigating us through this webinar for the next hour. The agenda looks like this. We have the welcome and the introduction, the context, scene setting that I will do, and then we have Dr Parikshit Naik joining us from the Advanced Services Group, and he will talk about the process equipment sector and the link to servitization. Then we're delighted to have Sasha Ilyukhin from Tetra Pak, and Sasha will expand upon his experience of Tetra Pak and provide examples of how servitization is playing a major role in the process industry. We have a Q&A session today, so please use the Q&A function at the bottom of your screen, and I will pick up on the questions as we go through towards the end of the webinar. And then there'll be closing remarks just to make sure that people know exactly what we'll be doing next and where you can get a copy of the recording. So the speakers today, Parikshit, we were very fortunate to have Parikshit join Aston University back in 2016, where he started his PhD on the topic of Internet of Things and the relationship to servitization. And Parikshit has gone on to join the Advanced Services Group, which is the impact arm of the group. And he is our commercial director. So great experience of working with industry and academia over these last 8 years or so. And we also have Sasha joining us from Tetra Pak. Sasha is the Senior Vice President for Global Processing Services and Services Solutions. He's approaching his 22nd year in Tetra Pak. He has a master's degree in food science and engineering, and he looks after the global strategy deployment for Tetra Pak, and in previous roles has been responsible for 700 service personnel, looking at outcome-based services and how they can deliver these outcome-based services to their customers. So today we're going to just give you a very quick overview of the Advanced Services Group. We focus on 4 key areas, the first being partnering, where we have a global network of like-minded peer companies, and between them they employ in excess of 200,000 people and have annual revenues in excess of $50 billion. So quite significant companies, all looking to extend their servitization journey and to accelerate the transformation that happens. We have an advisory arm where we can work with companies on shorter term assignments where there's a particular company need. And everything we do is supported and underpinned by research. And we also offer training on the topic of servitization and advanced services. From a research perspective, we're very fortunate to have our Executive Director, Professor Tim Baines. Tim is the leading academic in the world, the #1 by citations on the topic of servitization and advanced services. Tim joined Aston Business School back in 2011, and the group has now grown on the back of Tim's expertise, and we have the dedicated research team within the group that look after the latest servitization models, frameworks, and tools that we then share with industry. And the key thing about the group is that we are able to then take a view from research all the way through to industrial engagement and application, and then through to the impact that our servitization research entails. So some of the companies, past and present, you'll see we're delighted that Tetra Pak are one of our global partners. But we have companies of all shapes and sizes looking at different sectors. The only thing that we tend to be very careful about is that we work with companies in non-competing sectors. So we want to be able to make sure that the partners that we work with are able to share openly the challenges and the frustrations that they perhaps feel internally when they're trying to adopt a servitization strategy. And hence one of the big reasons why we exist is that we deal with the 3 key unknowns, the big elephant in the room, if you may. A lot of companies don't know necessarily what servitization means, and when we do help them understand it, they don't necessarily know when to start. And when we help them to know where to start, they don't necessarily know how to go about it. So that's why we exist. We help companies go from understanding servitization through to the transformation and the adoption of advanced services. So it's my pleasure now to hand over to Dr. Parikshit Naik. Parikshit will talk to you about the process industry papers that he has written and the importance of servitization. Parikshit.
Thanks a lot, Iain, for the excellent introduction. And yes, a pleasure to be presenting today with Sasha as well on the panel. And I wanted to give everybody a quick overview of why the topic of process equipment industry, what we mean by that, and at the same time, give a quick refresher on what we mean by servitization in this context as well. Of course, there are many more scientific reasons that I'll come to on why we chose process equipment industry, but a very personal one as well for me, because by training, I'm a chemical engineer. So the world of process equipment industries and processing of material is something that has been quite close to my heart for a while. We also have a new member in our team, Sriram, who's listening to the webinar as well, probably, who has spent quite a few years contributing to the process equipment industry and understanding their challenges and trying to find creative solutions around it as well. More importantly, though, recent developments have led us where more and more businesses from these industries are contacting us and asking, we want to explore this topic of servitization, of equipment as a service, of outcomes as a service. What does it mean? How does it change the way we operate? How does it change the way we do business with our customers? And that has led us to a deeper dive from the research angle to really understand what are the key pressing challenges in this industry and how does servitization, if it does, tackle some of these challenges and what is the role that it plays. So thinking of process equipment industry, if you look at the graphic on your screen, that's a typical, let's say, a dairy processing line where there would be several processes that take place, such as sterilization, separation, mixing, other forms of treatment for producing milk bottles at the end. There are several, let's say, activities that need to be done to the material, which is the milk itself, towards the end where it comes to bottling of and packaging of the milk as well. In between, there are utilities that are required, such as steam. So we are considering all of these different processes and the equipment that goes towards it, something as simple as a pump to something that could be more complex and difficult to understand, such as heat exchangers that would be involved in such a process equipment line. Now, within this context, we are thinking of how does servitization play a role? So to give everyone a quick overview of what we mean by servitization, for those who have been listening to us, and we do know quite a few of you come and attend our webinars very regularly, you will have seen this, but for others, to give a quick overview, we see servitization as a process of creating these increasingly new complex services, going up the staircase, specifically moving away from the base services, which you can see are marked with the orange line, moving into intermediate services, where you start thinking of the product condition and how does the customer make best use of this product. Further into advanced services, where you are thinking of how does my customer be more successful by using this product? How can we guarantee a certain level of outcomes? So let's think of the base services. It would be as simple as provision of the product spares. When we think of intermediate services, this can also involve product break fix. So how do we fix the product if something goes wrong? Then assured maintenance. If something goes wrong, can we guarantee to the customer that we will respond to that breakdown within a certain period of time? And then performance advisory. How do we, as manufacturers, move away from just thinking of the product's condition to also thinking of the product's use? How do we help the customer make best use of it? That might involve understanding how the customer uses it, what is the performance data, how do they overuse or underuse it? Perhaps even benchmarking their performance against several other users. Then it gets into the blue steps that you can see marked as advanced services. This is where you would guarantee, first of all, customer asset capability. So looking at the uptime and performance, for example, of an asset in the customer's environment. Next would be the process itself in which the asset sits. So let's take an example of a boiler that is placed in your homes, that is heating your homes today. If somebody was to provide the simple uptime of a boiler, that this will work, let's say 98% of its life cycle, and we can guarantee that, we could class it as customer asset capability, very loosely thinking about it. If they were to guarantee the heating performance of the entire heating system, not just the boiler, that would be something of a process capability. And finally, if they were to guarantee the entire comfort of your home, which is enabled by the boiler, that would be customer platform capability. And that's the 3 levels of what we would call outcome-based services, advanced services. As we move higher up in the staircase, a manufacturer starts providing more value to the customer, but at the same time, there's absorption of risk from the customer side. It doesn't mean all risk sits with the manufacturer. There might be partnerships you identify to mitigate these risks, but it's the movement of risk towards different players who are best suited to absorb that risk. And as you see, this moves the manufacturer away from focusing on outputs and ownership to outcomes and usership. And that's what we mean by servitization. And especially for the case of advanced services and this process equipment industry, we are exploring the role on the top 3 levels on the advanced services side. So having established the context of servitization and the industry, what we have been doing for the past few months and we plan to do in the near future is we started on this process of understanding what are the most pressing challenges for the manufacturers and their customers in this industry. So we took the example of dairy manufacturing. If you are a dairy manufacturer who produces the milk bottles, what are your challenges? And if you are an equipment manufacturer that supplies equipment to this factory, what are your challenges and how do they align? And what are the most pressing ones in this domain? Secondly, how do the manufacturers empathize with these challenges? Where do they see their role in supporting the customer as well? And how does servitization play a role in this? And finally, we want to present a balanced view on how these industry challenges can be addressed through servitization. To a certain extent, entirely, that's what we are trying to figure out. And we have been speaking to many manufacturers, conducting our research on the different industry outlets that are speaking about this as well. To give you a preliminary idea, we have come across these 3 key challenges marked in the pink box that shows that customization and compressed delivery schedules on the manufacturer end are quite important and they are quite interlinked. By customization, we mean that the end customer is looking for a more and more customized product, but at the same time, there is a pressure to deliver spare parts, deliver outcomes, deliver products in a very short delivery schedule. These 2 work hand in hand and affect each other at the same time. Secondly, there's commoditization. More and more manufacturers are facing this, and this is not purely exclusive to the process equipment industry. You can see that in many other industries as well. And the third one is the environmental consciousness from the end user, from the dairy manufacturer, and from the equipment manufacturer as well. All parties involved are getting more and more environmentally conscious about the carbon emissions of their product, their process, and wanting to reduce it. And at the same time, there's also material wastage that happens. For example, if a product line breaks, does the material flowing through this product line continue to go through, or does it have to be flushed down, and do they have to start again? And there are leakages in the process, and so on. Several other examples. And we came across these challenges as quite common and quite pressing when we spoke to manufacturers. Another challenge we saw when we were conducting research was digital technology. But the more and more we speak to the manufacturers, or when we spoke to them, we realized it is not actually a challenge, but rather it's a catalyst that can play a role, positive or negatively. With the lack of digital technology, addressing these challenges can be difficult, but with the availability of digital technology, addressing these challenges can be easier, and digital technology can play an enabling role. So it changed the way we were thinking about it. And as research has already shown, digital technology is a very key enabler in the world of servitization already. So it aligned very well with the idea of servitization being a common thread across all of these boxes. And that's what we are exploring. And it would be great to hear from Sasha as well, how he sees these challenges being addressed from the Tetra Pak angle. But we are open to speak to more manufacturing firms if they see these relevant to their own businesses and how they are tackling the challenges and how they see servitization playing a role. So at this point, without taking away any more time, I'll hand over to Sasha.
Thank you, Parikshit, and thank you, Ian, as well for the introduction. So I'm delighted to be here. So good morning, good afternoon, good evening to all of you. My name is Sasha Ilyukhin. I work for Tetra Pak, and today I'm here to share our experience in the area of servitization. I've worked for services for most of my career, so this is very near and dear to my heart. And I don't want to pretend that I know it all or we know it all, and I'm here to learn as much as you all are as well. But it would be great to get your questions at the end as well. But I'm here to share at least what we've been through and the journey that we've been through. So here we go. This is me. I have a background in food science and engineering. I'm a grad of Purdue University. So if there are any Purdue grads there on the call, then go Boilers. And here you can see that I have a family, my wife and my daughter. I'm based in Texas, in Denton, Texas, US, but I have a global responsibility in Tetra Pak for our processing services and our services solutions, which is basically in a nutshell, servitization. My daughter is now 14. We do share some passions together, voracious reading, tennis. We play tennis, we play piano, and we actually shoot guns. So this is an interesting combination, but being here in Texas, it's quite normal. So this is my immediate family here, and my extended family, of course, is Tetra Pak, where I have been for now nearly 22 years, and I have overall about 25 years in the food and beverage industry. And at Tetra Pak, we have a vision to make food safe and available everywhere. And we do that by protecting what we call protecting what's good, which is our motto. And we focus there on protecting food, protecting people, and protecting the planet. And you will see how that motto and that vision is reflected in what we also do in our servitization efforts for our customers. So Tetra Pak, for those of you that may not be as familiar, you may know us as a packaging company, and that's how we started, but we are very much in packaging and processing of food, not only of liquid food, but we also are quite prevalent in ice cream, in cheese, and in some of the other special applications in the food and beverage. We're privately owned, about 12.5 billion euro in turnover. And we're in 165 countries around the world, so with very good presence, very close presence to our customers. And we have been in the food industry for over 70 years. So we know a thing or two about food packaging and processing. So I work for the services part of Tetra Pak, services part of the business. And so here I want to first start with why servitization is relevant, why a lot of companies, and including companies in the processing industries, are going towards servitization. So let's examine first kind of the food industry, what I call megatrends. And you would also here see the reflection perhaps of what Parikshit was talking about in terms of food industry challenges. So as you look at these columns, also I've put 4 examples at the bottom of our own customers and you know, sort of how they are addressing and going about some of these megatrends that we have identified. So the first megatrend is technology and digital transformation. I think we're all a little bit tired of talking about IoT, Industry 4, DX. It's almost like in every presentation you see this. But what I find very interesting lately is that we are starting to see the sort of the convergence of old technology and new technology. So before, everyone was focused on this perfect stack, what was called the IoT stack, from all the way from the sensors to the cloud, through MES, through ERP, et cetera, et cetera. That's not how it works in reality. So a lot of companies, and especially in food and beverage, are dealing with legacy systems, old systems, and we have a challenge of connecting these systems to the newer technologies. But that also presents an opportunity of exposing data that perhaps has not been exposed or has been just dealt with manually. So that's a good opportunity, because data is the baseline of all of the outcome-related services. So that's the first trend right here. The second trend I would highlight is the trend of sustainability. And food and beverage industry is a big offender, one of the biggest offenders in the area of sustainability. More than a quarter of all the greenhouse gases come from, of course, the food and beverage industry, and a lot of waste as well. So estimated around 30%, as you can see, of food is wasted actually before it even gets to the consumer. So that's a lot of work to do for us as service providers to the food industry to help our customers be more sustainable. Workforce management. We've all heard this term of silver tsunami, of basically the workforce getting closer to retirement and what happens after a lot of people retire. I think it's not about silver tsunami as such. I think it's about the underlying current below the silver tsunami of all of the younger workers finding manufacturing attractive or not attractive. And a lot of our customers, most of our customers, are facing problems with retention. They're facing problems with finding the right talent, retaining the talent, developing the talent. And that's certainly the area that presents a lot of opportunities for servitization as well. And then finally, operational efficiencies, productivity. Parikshit mentioned the process of commoditization, and that very much happens. And what we do see is now, also with the volatility out there, with the war in Europe between Russia and Ukraine and all these other conflicts that we see around the world, we see that access to capital becomes less, inflation is rising, interest rates are rising. No one likes CapEx anymore, basically. And a lot of companies are going into CapEx reduction, really focusing on optimizing their supply chains and building higher resilience in that area. So these 4 megatrends, let me sort of try to translate that into how it relates to the opportunities that we're dealing with for servitization. So again, when we talk about technology, we now have a lot of data available to us, and data is key, is an absolute must in terms of delivering any type of outcome-based or usage-based solutions. We also see the trend of artificial intelligence, so generative AI, is now making its way into the industry, and a lot of the tools that we use and our customers use have AI components built into them. What does that mean? It means that the decisions are faster and the decisions are better, and people are more equipped with taking data-driven and proper and better decisions. So this is what the technology is helping us with. And the other sort of underlying trend there that I see is as well is that companies are going more for the best of breed rather than the best of suite in terms of technology. And so that also means there's an integration problem or an opportunity, depending on how you look at it, of integrating all of these various systems together. So that's the first trend translated. The second trend of sustainability, in some markets, especially in developed countries, it becomes really the license to operate. And I think in developing markets, it will become a license to operate going forward. We see a lot of our customers declaring their CO2 profiles, their CO2 footprints, even right on the package that they produce. But it also becomes a competitive tool. So companies can actually, through sustainability, through driving very specific actions to improve their sustainability, they can become more productive. They can just do better business, and they not only do good for the world and the environment, but they also do very well for their business because they become more efficient and more productive. Then what that also means is the process is becoming less asset intensive, and food and beverage industry is notorious for its built for flexibility. A lot of SKUs, not very efficient planning of production, of manufacturing. And so that generates a lot of time wasted, energy wasted, product wasted, and the assets that we're seeing coming on board are becoming significantly more productive, significantly more sustainable. And so that means that the industry is becoming less asset intensive. And then sustainability is not only about nature, but I think sustainability is very much about people as well. And you get people on board, you get people engaged, and people enjoy actually doing well, not only for themselves and their families and the consumers, but also for the planet as well. So that's the opportunity that sustainability area presents. And then the workforce management area also presents a lot of opportunities because many of our customers are trending towards contract manufacturing, meaning that the brand owners, they don't want to manufacture anymore. They want to focus on their brand activities, their marketing, what they speak to consumers, their product development, and they want to leave it to the professionals in manufacturing to actually make their products for them. So it's a little bit of a separation of capabilities there that is happening, and that trend is intensifying. And what that means for us is that these professionals that require really high focus on manufacturing efficiency, this is where the opportunity for the servitization sits as well. Then, of course, that comes with also CapEx to OpEx transition. Again, access to capital is more limited. With a lot of private equity backed companies, they're really looking at like return on investment capital. So that drives the trend towards more OpEx focus rather than CapEx focus. And then finally, the operational efficiency. So the focus on the total cost of ownership. Again, this is a prime area for services because services and through servitization, we can translate to our customers their total cost of ownership, and we can benchmark their total cost of ownership to others, to their peers in the industry, and basically tell our customers how well they're running, on average, towards the average, if they're industry. And I really like that concept because then everyone becomes better. Everyone is trying to kind of outpace everybody else. And the whole industry is actually gaining and benefiting from that. And then finally, companies just become, through that, they're like athletes. They become more resilient. So we went through COVID. We know that many companies declared bankruptcy or came very close to bankruptcy, required some financial injections to stay afloat, et cetera, and I really like the process of companies becoming more lean, more productive, more sustainable, because that, at the end of the day, makes them more resilient. Again, it's an opportunity to servitize. All of these things are a great opportunity for services to thrive. I'll end this section with a quote from Ayrton Senna that I recently found, where he said that you can never outrun 15 cars in a race, in a Formula One race, in a sunshine weather, but you can in the rainy weather. So think about that, right? And yes, we see a little bit of rainy weather out there, but a fantastic opportunity for us as service providers and for our customers to truly thrive in this environment. So now I'm going to switch over and talk a little bit about our Tetra Pak experience and what we are and how we do things. So what do we mean by servitization, and what does that look like for us in our portfolio? So this is our history of services. You know, we started as, I guess, as anybody else out there, very traditional, fix the machines type of mentality, a cost center rather than a profit center. So very classical story. And then we went into sort of developing a service portfolio, and then, you know, looking at it from our capability side. And then we went to further develop a solutions portfolio, so looking at it from a customer side. And then we are here in 2023 with over 2 billion euros of total sales of services for our customers, and we never stop, right? So we continue to develop, and I'll talk about it here in a moment. So when it comes to our portfolio, I just want to kind of share that this was the kind of the capability side of things. So this is what we can do, but we almost never present this picture to our customers, because this is not about us, right? It's about them. It's what they need. It's what we can do for them to be successful. And for that, we actually present and talk about our solutions portfolio. So our solutions portfolio has these three very general tiers, you can say. The first tier is what we call plant care, which is basically a way for us to guarantee and provide a predictable maintenance cost for our customers. So in other words, we would invoice on a monthly basis on a fixed fee or a fee based on per thousand packs or cases produced or liters run, and we take care of everything. Okay, so our customers, they don't need to worry about anything related to the maintenance of their asset. So then we can also add performance-related guarantees, and this would be the performance consultancy type of activities. But we also guarantee performance improvement or certain levels of performance when it comes to efficiencies of the lines, throughput of the lines, waste levels of the lines, both on the packaging side, on the processing side, or both combined, and typically with the efforts to improve performance. And then our sort of crown jewel of the solutions portfolio is the plant secure type of contract, where we focus even broader on a full site cost. And this is what Parikshit was also showing, sort of with everything that's also connected to the production lines. So the utilities side of things, the warehousing side of things, some of the supply chain elements, and energy consumption, water consumption. So all of these elements around the customer's production. So this is how our solutions portfolio has evolved, and we are taking it forward. I'm not going to show you everything where, you know, all the areas that we are going for, but some of the things that we are putting in place now is for example, off-balance sheet asset as a service. So this is really addressing the CapEx to OpEx movement, where we are able to provide to our customers a pay-per-use type of model with the guarantees and guarantees of output, and this is an off-balance sheet solution for them. Then everything as a service model. So everything that Tetra Pak has to offer, because again, we're not only services, but we also have very comprehensive portfolio of equipments and packaging and so on. And so we can offer all of that as a service on a per use type basis, managed inventories and things of that nature. So we are constantly trying to reinvent and listen to our customers, like what else can we do? What else can we provide to make them successful? So this is how our portfolio is shaping up. And again, I want to also reflect on the advanced services group here and the direction that they're setting, the forces that are shaping servitization and solutions portfolios are organizational, they're value chain driven, they're market driven, and they're technology driven. So all of these four forces are kind of shaping up the direction that we are taking in developing and having this better portfolio for our customers. So very much appreciate the help of Advanced Services Group, and Iain and the team there has been fantastic. So then a little bit about how. Okay, so it's one thing that we put on the slide that okay, we can guarantee this and that, but how do we actually go about these things? So it starts with very much again with data. Remember, I talked about data, and so benchmarking is an absolute, it is a golden tool, you can say, a golden wrench that we can use to come to the customer. And with our experience, 70 years in food and beverage industry and many years in services, we can basically tell after some assessments of how well the customer is running their operation. And that helps a lot in terms of kind of showing them with data on where they are versus their peers, versus the average of their industry. We can also help them model their cost base. So not only show them the efficiency related data, but also cost related data. And we can map the costs to the cost element and to the area of the process that they're running. That way we can identify kind of low-hanging fruit and where we can spend our efforts to basically get them the bigger benefit, the bigger increase in savings that we can deliver to them. So we call it activity-based costing model. We can translate everything that happens on a production floor through the key activity indicators, key performance indicators, key management indicators, all the way to the balance scorecard and to the balance sheet, the cash flow statement, and the P&L of the company. So all the way through, and then we know how these changes, interact with each other, so we can focus on the right things of where our customers need most improvement. The actual improvement is then delivered a lot through the total productive maintenance. We call it world-class manufacturing. We have 52 of our own factories. Many of them, majority of them, are world-class GIPM certified in total productive maintenance. So we know what we're talking about. And we apply that same methodology together with digital enablers to drive these improvements at our customer site. So this is basically kind of in a nutshell, very boiled down slide of how do we go about these things. In addition to that, we're also adding the way that we look at sustainability our customers. So we used to do, and we still do, a lot of mass balances. So we do balance of fat, balance of protein, for example, in any kind of production facility, because these are very expensive components of the food manufacturing. So we want to make sure that they're not wasted, they're used. But we've learned over the past few years on how to do the energy balance as well. So we can map to our customers, how much energy they intake, how much energy they spend, how much energy they waste, relate that to the product losses, relate that to COD, BOD, which is basically wastewater, which is becoming very, very expensive in many parts of the world. And then at the end of the day, translate all of that into CO2 equivalents and CO2 reduction on scope. Typically, it's scope 1 and 2 for our customers. So that is also becoming a part of our offer. So 3 recent examples, and then I will finish here, and we can take some questions. First example is from the Asia, a customer in Asia, and you can see that the problems that we have been addressing is they were not able to produce what they need to produce. So they had market demand, but they were not able to produce the amount of product that they need to produce. So we really help them on a number of areas: extended production runs, looking at how they look at quality, at their capabilities, setting up these key activity indicators to really drive the ownership of the equipment, of the manufacturing. And then you can see all the numbers: cut their waste 50% and gave them 17 million packs more that they could sell per year. So that's one example of a plant secure contract. Then another example is from a Middle East. These are all very recent. They're running now, okay? But this is just a slice of what we've delivered over the past year. And this one was where we focused on the cost. So the customer was producing what they need to produce, but their cost was prohibitive, was getting too high. And we were able to work with them on, again, optimization of planning, optimization of cleaning, looking very directly at their waste, looking at their water consumption, energy consumption, making a lot of effort to reduce their cost basis. And you can see we've delivered around 300,000 euros per year to their P&L, confirmed by the customer. And then finally, here's the example from another part of the world, from Americas, where it was more about quality. So our customer came to us and said, they have recurrent quality issues, and they needed to really address that. And this is what we focused on. So we've cut their quality issues by almost half, cut waste by 20%, and then through that gave them also a production increase, because all of a sudden the packages that were going to waste, they can sell. So this, of course, also delivers a revenue bump. This delivers a cost reduction. And again, all of that is done through total productive maintenance systems. So a lot of that is selling an outcome of the process. If we talk through the ASG terminology and what Parikshit was showing, it's selling the outcome of the process and selling the outcome of the platform if we do all of that through everything as a service. So I will finish here and leave 15 minutes for questions. And I will also end with one quote from Omar Khayyam that I really like. And Omar Khayyam said that, "Be happy for this moment. This moment is your life." I think that we're living in a fantastic moment where perhaps the weather can be a little bit rainy sometimes, but it's a fantastic opportunity for all of us to servitize and all of us to deliver this additional value to all of our customers. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Sasha. That was excellent and really insightful in terms of the journey that Tetra Pak are going on. We've got a couple of questions that have come into the Q&A, but perhaps if I take the liberty of maybe starting it off with you directly. You talked in your presentation about everything as a service. But we've also had conversations in the past about equipment as a service. How do Tetra Pak differentiate between the two?
Yeah, we differentiate based on the customer need. So it's what is customers' sort of pressing need. And for some customers, especially those with perhaps more limited access to raising capital, asset as a service is addressing that specific need. So in other words, they want to increase their capacity, but they have less access to capital or perhaps cost prohibitive access to new capital. So we can work with them through sort of OpEx pay-per-use type models for asset as a service. So that's the customer need on asset as a service type of model. Where it comes to everything as a service, this is more for customers that are very focused on total cost of ownership and that have good understanding of total cost of ownership, and perhaps also the customers that are very focused on manufacturing excellence. So they want to make sure that the platform that they run, which includes all of these elements from Tetra Pak, well, and other companies for that matter, but from Tetra Pak specifically, they have total transparency and guarantee on these costs going forward, because that helps them build, for their customers, build, cost and pricing models. That helps them for their investors as well to sort of build business plans, especially related to new investments, et cetera, et cetera. And again, when the investments become tight, it becomes more and more important to have data-backed, really not fluffy, but really business plans that are guaranteed by someone like us, Tetra Pak, where we can guarantee a plug-and-play cost per thousand, let's say, on a system.
Yeah, I think that's really helpful, Sasha. I think I like the distinction between the two, but what I really loved about it was that in both situations, you were focusing on the customer. It was very clear about that focus on the customer. We have a question coming up from Christoph. So Parikshit, I'll put this to you first, and then perhaps Sasha, the same question. Do you see the near future for using AI for servitization? And if so, what role do you think this would play?
Very interesting question, and very topical as well. The entire world is discussing AI and ChatGPT and so on. And yes, we do see a potential for AI to contribute to servitization. And I'll give you an example. We've recently been speaking to a company that has created sort of a conversational model where you can interact with your machine in a natural language and it responds back to you in a natural language. And in a demo, they showed me they could ask the machine, I am seeing error code ER XYZ, whatever it is. What does this mean? Because the operator, that's all they see, but they don't know what it means, or they would have to go through the entire manual to understand what it means. So they put this to the system and the system replies back, oh, it means XYZ. It means there's a leak in my air filter. And at the same time, they could also ask the system, what is your maintenance schedule? When is your next maintenance due? This machine tells you instead of you having to look through several documents. And that is one way of using AI. I'm sure as this evolves, there will be several others that come up.
Okay, thank you, Parikshit. And Sasha, anything to overlay to that question on AI?
I think we already see AI, or perhaps we don't see it, but it's almost everywhere these days, right? In our phones and the software that we use, in some of the systems we interact, the chatbots that we interact with. So it's in many places these days, and we don't even realize how much our lives are now influenced by AI. There's a famous, of course, suggestions for YouTube and things like that, but it also applies very much to manufacturing. We use AI as well through the various platforms and providers that we use. And Parikshit mentioned sort of self-service type of applications for AI and remote support type of applications for AI. We use that. We also use AI to give you an example, we used to have a fairly large team of people looking at performance data and sort of, managing that data and making reports out of it and benchmarks, etc. All of that's done automatically these days. So we will see more and more of AI being used for very specific applications.
Okay, thanks, Sasha. And perhaps if I can stay with you, because this is very geographic based. Charles is asking, how do you see servitization being in the North American market, in Canada in particular? And is the Advanced Services Group and or Tetra Pak able to work on projects in this market? So if I pass to you first.
Yeah, so I will start with the end. Yes, so we are absolutely, totally able to work on projects. And Charles, if you happen to be from one of our customers, then please by any means contact me, and yeah, we can have a follow-up discussion on that. But reflecting on the first part of the question, I would also agree that North American market and Canadian market tend to be somewhat traditional. So we do see that. We do see customers, running, a lot of customers are running more traditional business with heavy accounting, heavy sort of invoice processing, et cetera, et cetera. So there's definitely an opportunity to improve. But when it comes specifically to Canada, well, and to the US for that matter as well, absolutely we can do a lot of servitization. And by the way, we have with some of our Canadian customers, we have outcome-based agreements running today.
Yeah, thanks, Sasha. Parikshit, anything to add about the Advanced Services Group?
Sure, it's a great question, and yes, we do see increasing demand for support from manufacturing organizations who are exploring the idea of servitization or starting to go to market with some new services. And we have and we are currently working with manufacturers in the US region. So some of the companies you might have seen at the beginning when Iain was introducing our work, a lot of them have come from the US, and some of the ones that we currently work with are also based in the US. So regionally, we don't see a big divide between continental Europe or North America not being interested in it. But I completely agree with Sasha's point. The culture behind it can be slightly different. The way North America might perceive value in servitization, or why servitization is important to them, might be slightly different to why servitization is important to manufacturers in continental Europe. And servitization has several benefits. So it is, I don't want to say it one size fits all, but it has several benefits that different perspectives can tap into.
Yeah, thanks, Parikshit. And perhaps worth saying that our global partnership arose as a result of Goodyear Tires in Akron, Ohio, coming over to meet with Tim to talk about servitization, and it being a very lonely place for executives within these global firms, hence why the partnership was originated. So I'm coming back to you now, Sasha. Sukanya has put a comment there about a wonderful presentation that you delivered. And one question about how easy or difficult was it for you to convince your CXO about the as-a-service business model?
Yeah, Sukanya, thank you. Thank you for the nice feedback. And yes, it is a difficult journey. Okay, I'm not gonna pretend that it's not. It's a change of mindset. It's a change of approach. We have been also as traditional as our customers, and we are trying to sort of outpace the industry in terms of what we offer. But it is a difficult journey. So there's it's a lot of efforts. It takes engaging of people, and it takes also a lot of the good customer success stories to change that mindset. And then we are lucky to have a lot of the customer success stories over these years that the mindset is rapidly changing. But it's a great question.
Yeah, I think, Sasha, that ties into Luis's next question, which was related. It was about how challenging was it within Tetra Pak to reset the organizational mindset, and I think you have experience.
Yeah, and I don't think it's even completely reset yet, right? I mean, so I think that as always, it's probably some kind of a bell curve of sort of pioneers and early adopters and so on and so forth. But again, a lot of it relies on the customer success. So when we see the customer success, and then we had customers speaking to us at our conferences, we have a video coming up of one of our customers, and that video will be posted early next year. really talking about one of these contracts and the value that was delivered. So when we hear about these things, that just reinforces the direction that we are taking.
Yeah, thanks, Sasha. Parikshit, if I come back to you now, anything to add on the organizational change or the transformation journey itself?
Yeah, I think one of the key tools or techniques that we have seen where businesses that we work with have managed to convince CXOs is tapping into their individual pains and gains and seeing how servitization aligns with it. If I take an example, the CFO might be interested in how through servitization, we can provide an assurance of recurring revenue. And that becomes the business case for the CFO. When it comes to the CTO, it becomes a case of how through servitization, we have a better way of improving product design in the future because we understand more and more how the customer is using the product. So the future product lines can be improved in a different way. When it comes to the chief service officer, of course, for them, this is the big game. They would love to do this, but at the same time, it's also showing them that this is a way to create a new revenue stream, a more sustainable revenue stream, a longer-term relationship with the customers. So it gives them different flavors of how servitization can address all of their individual challenges. And that's sort of the stakeholder management we have seen successful businesses do.
Okay, thank you. And we have a question here. Perhaps if I take this one back to Sasha Parikshit and then come back to you for the same question. So Marco is asking, how do you price your outcome-based services? Is it a value-based model? And if yes, how do you estimate the value of the service for the customer? So perhaps Sasha, to start.
I think, Marco, that's an excellent question. And as much as I would like to say here that this is 100% value-based model, it's not. So part of it, of course, and we'd like it to be value-based. And we do a good job in estimating customer value. But I think it's a result of sort of top-down, bottom-up type of processes where we look at how much value we're delivering to our customer versus how much, project is going to cost us to actually do all these things that we commit to. And the answer is somewhere in between.
Okay, thank you, Sasha. Parikshit, anything from a research perspective you'd like to add?
No, I think if I know if I'm looking at Marco's name, Marco Paola, a very well-cited author in the world of servitization. So from a research perspective, there's very little I can tell him that he already doesn't know. But from an angle of what we have seen businesses do, yes, value-based pricing is a very useful way of looking at it, but it would be very hard to get into the details in the next couple of minutes of how businesses do pricing. But there are ways. We recently spoke to Alex Bill, who was from Caterpillar, about how they, in the world of Caterpillar equipment, created outcome-based services and how they priced it. So there are ways to do it, and would love to have a chat if Marco would like to.
Marvelous, thanks, Parikshit. And I think one final question from Sam for you, Sasha, if time permits. Does the as a service model mean that customers can upgrade or downgrade? So upgrading is not a problem, but what about downgrading? How do you cover the risk of that happening?
Yeah, great question, Sam. So none of our contracts are binding. So we have some conditions, but yes, customers can upgrade or downgrade or change. And in fact, what we see is, the contracts and the agreements that we have with our customers are never static. So we actually look at them on a monthly basis, quarterly basis, and things do change, and we adapt together to those types of changes. So absolutely, it's you need to be flexible in this world.
Yeah, thank you, Sasha. That's a really good point to end on. And I'd just like really to thank, obviously, Parikshit for the introduction and Sasha for sharing his expertise, wisdom, and insight from the years of Tetra Pak. So thank you to all the delegates who registered today. For those that weren't able to attend, you will get a copy of the recording, as will those that participated today. And it just leaves me to thank, as always, Christine in the background for all our help in making sure that we can get this on for you where there's interest in servitization and advanced services. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you very much.
Thanks all.